Every person has a dream, a vision of something greater than where they are right now. But the truth is, most dreams die not because they were impossible, but because they were never given a deadline. A dream without a deadline is nothing more than a wish dressed in hope. It sounds good, it feels good, but it never materializes. You can pray all you want, you can declare all you want, but until you attach time to your dream, it will remain an idea floating in your imagination. See, a deadline is not meant to limit your faith, it's meant to focus your faith. A deadline gives direction to your desire. When you set a deadline, you're saying, I believe this is possible, and I'm preparing myself for when it happens. Because faith without structure is fantasy. You can't build a skyscraper of success on a foundation of uncertainty. You've got to take your dream out of the clouds and bring it down into the calendar. Most people confuse waiting on God with wasting time. They say, I'm waiting for the right moment, when in truth, the right moment is created by movement. A deadline demands movement. It forces you to stop talking and start building. You can't keep saying someday. Someday is not a day on the calendar. Someday is an excuse for comfort. But when you give your dream a date, you give your destiny a direction. Deadlines discipline your spirit. They refine your focus. They teach you how to manage time instead of being managed by time. When you operate without deadlines, you'll always find something else to do, someone else to blame, or another reason to delay. But when you set a deadline, you tell your mind, we're doing this. Shift from intention to execution, from dreaming to doing. You stop being casual and start being committed. Dreams require deadlines because deadlines create accountability. They expose whether you truly believe in your vision or you're just attached to the idea of it. When you set a deadline, you make a covenant with yourself, a promise that you will no longer settle for almost. Every great builder, every great achiever, every great believer knew this truth. The promise of success is always connected to the principle of responsibility. Time is one of God's greatest gifts. Every second is a seed, and how you spend your time determines the harvest you will see. Deadlines are how you steward time wisely. They remind you that you are not in control of time. You are accountable for it. You cannot recycle wasted years. You can't get back last year's opportunities. The clock doesn't rewind for comfort. It keeps ticking for commitment. You see, your dream doesn't become real because of emotion. It becomes real because of execution. Deadlines turn potential into performance. You can have all the talent in the world, but without time boundaries, that talent will rot in procrastination. You can have the right dream, but the wrong discipline, and you'll stay stuck where you are. A deadline breaks the pattern of delay. It gives you a finish line to pursue and a fire to keep you going. And don't think deadlines are just for business or money. They are spiritual. God moves through order. In creation, he set times and seasons. The sun rises on schedule, the moon appears on schedule, and the stars stay in alignment. Heaven operates by divine timing. If you want divine results, you must align with divine order. That means you must attach timelines to your transformation. When you set a deadline for your dream, you declare that you're ready for change. You tell life, I'm done drifting. You tell your future, I'm on my way. You tell your doubt, you can't delay me anymore. The moment you decide when, your dream begins to take form, because every dream must graduate from imagination to manifestation, and deadlines are the bridge that connects the two. So ask yourself today, what have you been delaying because you haven't defined the timeline? What vision have you been talking about for years but never start? Ed, because you keep waiting for perfect timing? Perfection is the enemy of progress. Stop waiting for everything to align. Start aligning everything you have with your deadline. You don't need another year to think about it. You don't need another month to pray about it. You need a date that demands your discipline. You need a timeline that forces transformation. You need a standard that stretches your faith. Because when you set a deadline, heaven takes notice. Your faith gets structure, your actions get clarity, your dream gets traction. Remember this, dreams without deadlines die in delay, but dreams with deadlines are delivered in destiny. You were not created to just dream, you were created to dominate. You were not designed to just imagine, you were designed to implement. And when you put time on your side, when you make your dream accountable to the clock, you'll find out that time was never your enemy. Procrastination was. So today, don't just dream bigger, dream with a date. Don't just believe harder, believe with a plan. Don't just talk about your purpose, put it on your calendar. Because a dream with a deadline becomes a goal. A goal with discipline becomes a habit. And a habit with faith becomes your destiny. Your future is waiting for you to set a date. Your breakthrough is waiting for you to decide when. So stop waiting for someday. Make today your deadline for destiny. Dreams without deadlines are just wishes. They sound inspiring when you talk about them, but without a clear time frame, they lose their power to produce action. A dream without a deadline is like a seed that's never planted, full of potential but producing nothing. You can have the most beautiful vision in your heart, but if you never decide when you'll act on it, it remains trapped in your imagination. Most people live in the realm of one day. They say, one day I'll start the business, or one day I'll write the book, or one day I'll change my life. But one day is not on the calendar. One day is the comfort zone of dreamers who fear discipline. One day feels safe because it doesn't demand accountability. As long as it's one day, you never have to measure your progress, face your fears, or risk failure. A dream without a deadline is like a promise with no plan. You keep hoping, but hope without a plan leads to frustration. The reason deadlines matter is because they give your dream structure. When you give your dream a date, you turn it from a fantasy into a goal. You give yourself something to pursue, not just something to talk about. A deadline forces you to prioritize what matters and eliminate distractions that steal your time. Without deadlines, dreams float. They drift from one thought to another, one season to another, never landing anywhere solid. You can pray for years, believe for years, but if you never attach a time frame, nothing changes. Faith doesn't mean waiting without work. Faith means believing enough to take the first step now. Deadlines give you permission to move from inspiration to implementation. When you say, by the end of this year, I will accomplish this, you shift your mindset. You tell your brain, it's time to focus. You train your emotions to follow your decisions instead of your desires. The power of a dream is not in how big it is. It's in how committed you are to it. Deadlines separate the dreamers from the doers. Every person who has achieved something remarkable started with a vision and then gave that vision a time frame. They understood that time is the container of destiny. Without a container, everything leaks. Without a schedule, everything slips. You cannot build a legacy on wishful thinking. You must build it on intentional timing. Dreams without deadlines keep you busy imagining a better life instead of creating one. But when you set a deadline, you invite discipline, you activate faith, and you awaken purpose. You tell your dream, I'm serious now. You tell your future, I'm on my way. Because when you put a date on your dream, you give your destiny a direction. Faith requires structure. You can't just believe and expect things to happen without order, intention, or a plan. Faith isn't meant to be random. It's meant to be organized around action. Real faith is not chaotic. It's strategic. It's not emotional hype. It's disciplined belief. When you truly believe that something is possible, you begin to create the structure that supports that belief. You start preparing your life to handle what you're praying for. Think about it. If you say you have faith that you'll build a business, but you have no schedule, no goals, no budget, and no deadlines, that's not faith, that's fantasy. Faith without structure is like a house without a frame. It might have vision, but it has no stability. Structure is what makes faith sustainable. It's what turns your spiritual conviction into tangible results. Even God works through structure. In creation, he didn't just say, let there be everything. He worked in sequence. Day 1, he separated light from darkness. Day 2, he formed the heavens. Day 3, he brought forth the earth. Everything he did followed a pattern, an order, a system. That's divine structure. And if the Creator uses structure to manifest his vision, how much more should we? Faith is not passive waiting, it's active preparation. When you build structure around your faith, you prove that you're expecting manifestation. You can't say you're believing for abundance while living in disorder. You can't ask for opportunities when your schedule shows you're unprepared to handle them. God blesses what's ready, not what's random. Structure is the proof that you're serious about your belief. Faith needs systems. Systems for growth, for consistency, for accountability. When you create those systems, you give your faith a place to land. You give your dream a container that can hold the blessing when it arrives. Too many people lose opportunities, not because God didn't deliver, but because they didn't prepare. They prayed for rain, but never built a reservoir. They believed for increase, but never managed what they already had. Faith without structure becomes emotional. It depends on how you feel that day. But structured faith operates on principle. It keeps moving even when emotions fade. It keeps building even when progress is slow. It stays consistent because it's not built on feelings, it's built on foundations. When you organize your time, your thoughts, and your actions around your faith, you align yourself with divine order. You show heaven that you're not just hoping, you're planning. You're not just wishing, you're working. You're not just asking, you're arranging. That's when doors start opening, because structure is the invitation that tells opportunity, I'm ready for you. Faith requires structure because structure gives your belief stability. It keeps your dream from drifting into distraction. It transforms faith from a statement into a strategy. When you put structure behind your faith, you give God something to multiply. Deadlines create urgency and discipline. Without a sense of urgency, most people live life on pause, always preparing, always planning, but never producing. Deadlines break that cycle. They put pressure on potential. They force you to stop treating your purpose like an option and start treating it like an obligation. When you set a deadline, you give your dream a countdown. You tell yourself, this must happen by this time, and that command awakens focus, energy, and commitment that comfort could never produce. Urgency is the fuel of progress. When you know time is limited, you move differently. You think sharper, act faster, and prioritize what truly matters. Without urgency, distraction takes over. You scroll instead of study. You delay instead of decide. You make excuses instead of effort. But when a deadline is in place, you don't have time for distractions. Becca, you understand the cost of delay. Deadlines don't just keep you on schedule. They shape your character. They teach you to push through resistance and to master the art of finishing. Discipline is born where urgency lives. When you know you have a deadline, you train your body and mind to obey your purpose, not your feelings. Discipline says, I don't need to feel like it, I'm committed to it. Deadlines remind you that consistency is more powerful than emotion. You may not always feel motivated, but you can always stay disciplined. And the more you honor your deadlines, the more you build self-respect. Every time you meet a goal, your confidence grows, your belief strengthens, and your capacity expands. Deadlines teach you how to manage time rather than be managed by it. You stop drifting from day to day hoping progress will happen, and you start commanding your hours with intention. You begin to realize that every minute matters. Every choice either moves you closer to your dream or keeps you where you are. Urgency forces focus. Focus creates progress. Progress builds discipline. Most people never reach their potential because they confuse comfort with peace. They think moving slowly means moving wisely, but wisdom without action becomes wasted time. A deadline removes the illusion that you have forever. It makes you understand that greatness has an expiration date. Opportunities have a shelf life. If you don't act, you lose them. Deadlines are not your enemy, they are your mentor. They train you to value time, to stay accountable, and to operate with excellence. Without them, you drift. With them, you grow. Deadlines create the structure that keeps your faith alive and your goals in motion. They are the bridge between desire and discipline, between wishing and winning, between talking and transforming. When you set a deadline and commit to it, you tap into a different level of energy, a divine urgency that pushes you to give your best. You stop waiting for motivation and start living by mission. That's when you realize deadlines don't just create urgency and discipline, they create destiny. Vision needs accountability because without accountability, vision drifts into delusion. You can have the clearest picture of your future, the most detailed dream in your heart, but if no one and nothing holds you accountable to it, it will slowly fade into wishful thinking. Accountability gives vision weight. It keeps you grounded in reality while you're reaching for destiny. It's easy to talk about a big dream. It's harder to stay committed to it when progress feels slow. That's why accountability matters. It's the guardrail that keeps your vision on course when emotions try to take the wheel. A true vision always demands structure, and structure requires accountability. When you tell yourself, this is what I'm building, accountability is the voice that answers back, show me what you've done. It's not about pressure, it's about progress. Accountability forces you to measure what you're doing instead of just imagining what you could do. Without that, you'll confuse motion with momentum and effort with effectiveness. You'll stay busy but not productive. You'll talk about purpose but never produce fruit. When you have accountability, you start treating your dream like an assignment, not a hobby. You stop saying, I'll get to it, and start saying, I must do it. Accountability teaches you to respect the vision you've been given. It helps you separate excuses from execution. It doesn't allow you to hide behind comfort or perfectionism. It reminds you that vision is a responsibility, not just an inspiration. Even the greatest leaders understood this principle. No one rises in isolation. Every person who fulfills a great vision surrounds themselves with people, systems, or disciplines that hold them to their word. That's because accountability is the proof of seriousness. If you're not willing to be held accountable, you're not read. Why to lead? If you can't be corrected, you can't be elevated. Accountability doesn't limit your freedom, it protects your focus. A vision without accountability becomes emotional. It lives in feelings instead of faithfulness. But when accountability steps in, vision gains traction. It becomes measurable, it becomes tangible, it gains direction. Accountability keeps you honest about your habits, your use of time, and your level of discipline. It doesn't let you hide behind potential. It pushes you toward performance. And accountability isn't always about people watching you. Sometimes it's about holding yourself accountable to the timeline you set, to the promise you made, and to the purpose you declared. It's about checking your progress and asking yourself the hard questions. Am I truly doing what I said I would do? Am I managing my time or am I wasting it? Am I honoring the vision or just talking about it? When you build accountability into your vision, you accelerate results. You move with intention. You stop recycling the same year over and over, hoping for different outcomes. Accountability keeps your dream alive when motivation dies. It keeps you consistent when no one's watching. It keeps you moving when you feel like quitting. Vision needs accountability because accountability turns inspiration into integrity. It ensures that what you see in your mind becomes what you produce in your life. Without accountability, vision stays invisible. But with accountability, vision becomes inevitable. Time is a divine resource. It's not something you own. It's something you're entrusted with. Every second you breathe is a gift from God, a slice of eternity placed in your hands to manage wisely. You can recover money, you can rebuild relationships, you can regain strength, but you can never reclaim time once it's gone. That's why time is sacred. It's not just what you spend, it's what you sow. Every moment you invest moves you closer to or further from your destiny. Time is proof that purpose is real. If you're still here, it means heaven hasn't closed your assignment. It means there's still something for you to do, someone for you to become, and something for you to build. But how you handle time reveals how much you value that purpose. Many people pray for blessings while wasting the very resource that brings blessings into manifestation, time. You can't ask God to multiply what you refuse to manage. When you begin to see time as divine, you stop treating it casually. You start guarding it like treasure. You stop giving it away to distractions that don't deserve it. You begin to structure your days around destiny, not around entertainment. Because the truth is, whatever dominates your time will eventually define your life. The people who honor time always rise above those who waste it. Not because they're smarter, but because they understand the value of moments. Time is a seed. Every hour you spend learning, building, creating, or serving is a deposit into your future harvest. But every hour wasted in doubt, gossip, fear, or laziness is a withdrawal from your potential. That's why successful people treat time differently. They understand that each day is currency. You can either spend it on what matters or waste it on what distracts. And once it's gone forever. Time also reveals character. How you use your time shows what you truly believe about your calling. If you say you're serious about your purpose, but you spend hours on distractions, your actions betray your confession. If you believe God has called you higher, you'll stop wasting time on low-level habits. Faith honors time because it knows that delay is costly. Every day you delay discipline, you delay destiny. Time is divine because it operates under heaven's authority. You can't control it, but you can cooperate with it. You can't stop it, but you can steward it. You can't make more of it, but you can make more out of it. And when you begin to honor time, God begins to accelerate it. He redeems the years that were lost. He multiplies your effort. He blesses your diligence. That's why deadlines matter, because they show respect for time. They tell God, I value the resource you've given me. Every minute is a miracle in motion. Every sunrise is another chance to become who you were designed to be. So don't waste divine time on temporary things. Don't trade eternal purpose for momentary pleasure. Time is the most spiritual resource you have. Use it with intention, protect it with discipline, and invest it with faith. Because when you honor time, time will honor you. Deadlines transform potential into performance. Potential is powerful, but without execution, it's empty. Every person is born with gifts, ideas, and abilities placed inside by God, but potential that never meets pressure stays dormant. A deadline creates that pressure. It turns intention into action and vision into movement. When you set a clear deadline, you give your potential an assignment. You tell your ability it's time to show up. Potential by itself is a promise. Performance is the proof. There are millions of people full of talent, but very few full of results because they never give their potential a timeline. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, or the perfect conditions. But deadlines don't wait for perfection. They demand progress. They push you beyond comfort into commitment. They strip away excuses and expose whether you're truly serious about what you say you want. A deadline is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. It doesn't just measure your time. It measures your discipline. When you set a deadline and work toward it, you activate focus. You begin to eliminate distractions and align your actions with your intentions. Suddenly, every choice matters, every day counts. You start treating your hours like building blocks for your destiny instead of moments to be wasted. Potential is like raw energy. It's powerful, but unfocused energy can't create transformation. Deadlines channel that energy into direction. They give your effort a target and your ambition a rhythm. Without a deadline, you might dream about change for years, but never experience it. With a deadline, you force your potential to perform under pressure. And pressure is what creates diamonds. Deadlines also reveal your relationship with responsibility. People who fear deadlines often fear accountability. They don't want to confront what happens if they fall short. But the truth is, a missed deadline is not failure. It's feedback. It shows you where you need more focus, more consistency, or more faith. Every time you set a deadline and strive for it, you grow stronger, sharper, and wiser. When you honor your deadlines, you train your mind to operate with purpose. You stop drifting from day to day, and you start directing your destiny. You become intentional with your energy, your schedule, and your surroundings. That's when your potential begins to take form. Because potential doesn't fulfill itself. It must be managed, measured, and manifested through action. A deadline transforms potential into performance by demanding proof. It says, show me what you've built. Show me what you've learned. Show me what you've become. It turns a dream into a deliverable. It turns a calling into a commitment. It transforms someday into this day. And when you consistently give your potential a deadline, you become a finisher. You stop living in cycles of starting and quitting. You start completing what you begin. You move from possibility to productivity, from vision to victory, because potential without performance is wasted purpose, but potential with a deadline becomes destiny in motion. Dreams without deadlines are just wishes, but when you add structure, urgency, accountability, and discipline to your faith, everything begins to shift. Deadlines don't limit you, they liberate you. They take your dream, out of your imagination and place it into your calendar. They turn faith from something you talk about into something you walk out. Because faith without structure drifts, time without purpose disappears, and potential without deadlines dies unfulfilled. Every dream God gives you is waiting for you to decide when. The moment you attach a date to your desire, heaven takes notice. You're no longer just hoping, you're preparing. You're no longer just believing, you're building. You're no longer wishing for time, you're working with it. That's when vision becomes visible and purpose becomes powerful. You don't need more potential, you need more precision. You don't need more time, you need more intention. Every great destiny begins when someone finally says, enough waiting, now is the time. Your future isn't waiting for motivation, it's waiting for movement. So give your dream a deadline, give your purpose a plan. Give your vision accountability, because when you decide to value time, structure your faith, and commit to completion, you'll see your life transform. The dream you've been carrying will finally move from possibility to performance, from faith to fulfillment, from desire to destiny. Your breakthrough doesn't start with a new opportunity, it starts with a new decision. Decide when, because when you set your deadline, you set your destiny in motion.